Hi all. Today I'm going to show you a very frustrating behavior of Elixir Releases that got me into some amount of trouble. So to start off with, we are running everything on Elixir 1.17.3 with OTP version 27.1.1. So let's start with this application. I've called it My App. You can see it right here. This is a supervised application, and in our hypothetical scenario, we're going to be running this from a release. What that means is that at some point, the application supervisor that's in application.ex is going to get run, and that's where all of the parts of the application are kicked off. So let's go ahead and do a release. So we're going to do mix release, and that will give us a release artifact. And we can run the release by following this command right here, the starting your system one. And so let's go ahead and do that. And when we do this, what we see is that we get this really unhelpful Erlang error. So what this is saying is that the application controller app, which is an app that gets launched at boot of your Erlang VM, has exited for some reason. And unfortunately, it isn't too clear about what exactly the reason that it terminated was. It is effectively swallowed up whatever the error that initially triggered it would have been. So one way you can find this out is by going through your application.ex and looking through all of your children and looking through them and trying to find what the error is. So in this case, we only have one child. That's this service gen server. And here you can see there's a place where we can crash here. Although sometimes it won't be that obvious. And I clearly haven't set this system.fetchenv don't crash. And so what happens if we do that? Do set that. And then let's run this. Okay, so now that we have actually set that environment variable, we get the repeating success line. So that fixed it. But you can imagine a situation where maybe you have more than 10 or 16 or 30 children in your application tree. And in my case, I have a service that's in prod that has upwards of 15 different children. And trying to find which of those children is malfunctioning is not necessarily easy. In some cases, it could be something very subtle. For example, online, I've seen an error report that somebody needed help with where the port 80 for HTTP is a privileged port in Linux. And because Bandit was unable to open port 80 because it had been instructed to open port 80 instead of port 4000, it threw and was unable to start the application and gave this exit terminating application controller error with no further indication of what went wrong. Now, one frustrating thing about this is that if you do run IEXS-mix instead, you do get a useful message that tells you exactly where everything went wrong. So what I would like to do is to quickly show you where you can find this information and where you can instrument this information so that you can give yourself a better error report that will at least give you a breadcrumb as to what happened. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to go to application.ex where our supervisor gets started, and we're going to do a case statement. Okay, and we're going to set OK PID and return that straight off. And if we get an error, we're going to make that E, and then we are now going to logger.error. And for this case, we're just going to inspect what that info is. You probably, for your own use cases, it would do you to go through the information and try and figure out how to extract maybe a more useful and less convoluted message as to what exactly went wrong. I'll leave that as an exercise to the viewer. So, but in this case, what we're just going to do is we're going to inspect info. And of course, before we do this, we need to require a logger. This is complaining because we haven't closed the end here. And I think that should work. Oh yeah, let's not send OK. We want to return the error. OK. So now let's go ahead and release this again. Yes. And then let's go ahead and run this. And now you can see just before we got this hard to understand swallowed message thing, what we've gotten is we've gotten the system.env error with the env variable don't crash. That tells us that somewhere our system.fetch, we called system.fetchEnv, and that's what failed. And here we even get a stack trace, right? So we can find that service init line 6 in lib myappservice.ex, and so here it should take us to line 6. So that way we can know that, well, in more than one different way, we know that the don't crash environment variable wasn't surfaced. Now I do want to caution one thing. Obviously there is a programmatic way to go through all of this information and pretty print it so that it looks like an actual error. But what I don't want people to do is I don't want people to not use crashes in your init. Crashing in your init is actually a very good thing. You want this thing to immediately stop, give up what it's doing, because if I didn't have this environment variable, I have no purpose even existing, and so I should crash. And when that crashes, that will prevent your entire program from running. And you should see that in your logs, that, oh, we have system downtime. That is a much more useful signal to be able to consume than it's silently failing and not providing its service, or maybe there is some other weird downstream error that's occurring that's not directly connected to, oh hey, we couldn't boot this app up altogether. Okay, so if you ever see this application controller exit terminating error message, then what that means you should probably do is to go into application, your application module, and start to instrument it with logging information that will be able to extract the error message from where it came from, and then bring that and surface that out to whatever reporting you have. Okay, hope that helps somebody out there.